Hey, shalom, shalom, shalom. Most High Christ bless. Hope everybody had a have a good morning. Waking up. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Uh, Hopefully y'all can hear me. If you can hear me, thumbs up. Today's topic is Daniel and the fiery furnace. Hmm. I see somebody say volume very low. Hopefully I can hear you. Hopefully it's not too low. Hopefully you can hear me clear. So let's get started. We're gonna start all praises. We're gonna start in Daniel's chapter 2. Daniel's chapter 2 in verse 40. So wake up. It's time to get that medicine and get a little history. This is like history month, so-called history month according to Esau. I heard they taking that away anyways, but we do history every day. All praise to the Most High. They're gonna just section us off in 28 days out of the month. Get out of here. We do history when we wants to, which is every day. All right, let's get a little history on Daniel. So we're gonna cover the ending of Daniel chapter, a few verses in Daniel chapter 2 about the dream, and then we're gonna go to Daniel chapter 3. So Daniel in the fiery furnace. All right, Daniel's chapter 2 in verse 40. I don't know if I got my scribe is up. If he is, we in Daniel's chapter 2 in verse 40. Uh, and it reads, "And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron. For as much as our iron break it in pieces and subdue it all things, and as iron that break it all these shall it break in pieces and bruise." So this fourth kingdom is talking about the same kingdom we read in Daniel 7, but was not expounded on Daniel. This is talk about Rome. I'm going to go to 2nd Ezra chapter 12. 2nd Ezra chapter 12 in verse 11. 2nd Ezra chapter 12 in verse 11. "The eagle whom thou sawest come up from the sea is the kingdom which was seen in the vision of thy brother Daniel. But it was not expounded unto him. Therefore, now I declare it unto thee." So this kingdom was talk about Rome. So when we read Daniel chapter 3, that fourth kingdom, this is Rome being documented in the scriptures in Daniel, when Daniel's in Daniel chapter 3. So that's Rome in the Bible. So that Rome represents that what we read in Second Ezra is going into the history where he expounded into Daniel here in Ezra, which he didn't do in Daniel's. He just told him it was, when you read Daniel chapter 7, it just told him it was another beast, but he didn't explain it. He didn't explain it to Daniel. But Ezra he did. Is an eagle. Okay. So going back to Daniel chapter 2 and verse 40. "And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron break it in pieces, and subdue it all things, and as iron that break it all these shall it break in pieces and bruise." So this fourth kingdom is going to come and conquer and rule. And during this time, before Rome came in power, it was the Greek. That's why we had that Greco-Roman rulership. So the Greeks end up being taken down, or they kind of merged together, same race, Esau kingdom. And this was the time in 63 BC, around 63 BC. Remember when we read in the 10 buck 2, I'm gonna put that up real quick. The Babylon 10 buck 2. about Pompeii. Remember, it was around 63 BC, and there was many Roman uh, rulers at the time just going around conquering certain provinces. You had Pompey, you had Julius Caesar, uh, Augustus, uh, you had Septimian Severus, you had various a lot of Roman generals. Hold up, let me put this up. So this is the Babylon Timbuktu. We're going to read this highlighted area, just one line out of this highlighted area, because there's a point I want to make. Because remember, I said Rome came into power around 63 BC. So here we're going to read. Remember, time counted from 65 down. So 65, 60, 64, 63. So this is Babylon Timbuktu, page 84. Let me see if you can see that. Let me see if I can zoom in more. Boom. All right. In the year of 65 BC, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem. That's all I want. Just wanted that one line from Rudolph R. Renzer in the Babylon Timbuktu. He's telling you from his research is when Pompey, which was a Roman general, Esau, by the way, captured Jerusalem. So this is why when we read back in Daniel's, let's go back to Daniel's chapter 2 in verse 40 again. It says, "And the fourth kingdom, which is Rome, shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise." So it break in pieces. So this Rome is about to come and take over. So during this time, you had the Roman Republic, and various Roman provinces, Roman generals trying to conquer and take land. I know Pompey was the first, and you had Julius Caesar, which was a Roman during the Roman Republic as well. Julius Caesar, he fought against the Gallic Wars, and prior to that, Pompey captured Jerusalem, sacked Jerusalem. You read about it more in Josephus. Okay. Let me get, wait a second. I'm going to go a little bit of history in the Wikipedia about Julius. Okay. This is the Wikipedia, Julius Caesar. So this is Gaius Julius Caesar. July 12, 100 BC, died in March 15, 44 BC. He was a Roman general and a statesman, a member of the first triumvirate. I'm sorry to pronounce that word. Let me click that. These were three generals, three Roman generals. You had Gaius Pompus Magnus, Marcus Licinius Crassus, and Gaius Julius Caesar. These three came together and formed the Republican Constitution. So they were the ones. This is around, let me see what it says the time, 59 BC, 58 to 59 BC. So these three Idumean Edomite formed a lot of the Roman political alliance between them. They had an alliance between them, and it didn't last because eventually Pompey had a civil war with Julius Caesar, and they battled. But prior to that, they actually had the same goals. But Esau loved to conquer, like to be the top guy. So going back to Julius Caesar, it says Caesar led the Roman armies in the Gallic Wars. That's what I wanted. The Gallic Wars before defeating his political rival Pompey in a civil war. So he fought the Gallic Wars prior to him fighting against Pompey and winning that, and subsequently became the dictator from 49 BC until his assassination in 44 BC. Let's click the Gallic Wars, because I want you to know about these Gallics, or the Gauls. All right, the Gallic Wars were waged between 58 and 50 BC. Remember, Pompeii prior prior to this, remember, time count backwards. So prior to this, in 63, between 63 and 65 BC, Pompey already sacked and captured Jerusalem. Now here we are in about 3 or 4 years later, which is 58. It says between 58 to 50 BC. So from starting from 58, so you got 63, 65, 60. I'm sorry, 65, 63, 64. I'm sorry, 65, 64, 63, 62. On down, you get to 58. It says the Gallic Wars were waged between 58 and 50 BC by the Roman general Julius Caesar against the peoples of Gaul. This is present-day France, Belgium, and Switzerland. Gallic, Germanic, and Bratonic tribes. So you see that word tribes? So this is telling you these groups are not Edomites. These are dark races, which I'm approved are Israelites, by the way. He fought against them tribes and fought to defend their homeland. They fought to defend their homelands against an aggressive Roman campaign. The wars concluded in the decisive Battle of Alesia in 52 BC, in which a complete Roman victory resulted in the expansion of the Roman Republic, okay, over the whole of Gaul. Understand that. So I want you to know that these Gaul and these Gallic tribes, they were very vast and mighty. That's why the battle lasted so long. Years. They went from 58 and they finally got conquered in 52 BC. So there wasn't no push around type of people. You know, this is our people. These are our forefathers. Okay. So the Roman Republic, this is when the Roman Republic was going around conquering. So under Julius Caesar, he was a dictator under the Roman Republic ruling, taking down dark nations, pretty much, and Israelites was in there. Let's scroll up. We right here. Oh, sorry. And why I keep doing that? We are sorry having a malfunction. Well, let me see if I can tap it. Right here, we though. It's right there. Though the collective Gallic armies were as strong as the Roman forces, the Gallic tribes' internal divisions eased victory for Caesar. So that lets you know Israel, we never got along. We always had internal war, just like during the time of the Romans when Christ was walking on earth. You had the Pharisees against the disciples. Then you had back in the Kings, King Rehoboam against King Jeroboam. It's like the two tribes would just never get along. And we had civil wars. Even during the time of the Maccabees, you had John Hyrcanus, descendants, the Hasmonean dynasty against the Hellenist group. You know, Hellenists was those heathenists, forefathers of ours that loved the heathen custom, love Antiochus Epiphanes. So we all had internal, and then what Esau would do, he would come in and take over. The same thing they did during various captivity. Okay, so point I want you to see, they had these tribes. It says, though the collective Gallic armies were as strong as the Roman forces, that's why we endured so long. But eventually, ultimately, Julius Caesar took down the Gallic tribes, and the Gaul was located. Where was it located? It was located near. Let me see if I get a map. Let's see, Gaul. Let's see. There you go. Let's get that one. Let me see. Hope you can see that. You had Golia. You had Golia. These all as the Gauls. This is like like around Rome, but a little north of Rome, Italy. Hopefully they could show me a full map. Maybe they could give me a full map. Let's see if there's a better map than that. You see that? Because I gave you a location, present-day France. So hopefully I could see that. Oh, I do that. There you go. Maybe I'm too zoomed in. I can't zoom in too far. All right, so here you see there. You see Italy down here. Italy is down here. Then you had Gaul. This is where a lot of our people, we do the whole of Gaul. So we was in an area we call today Europe and France. We were there. Our people was there, and I'm gonna prove it. Just wanted to show you that Julius Caesar fought against them. So that orange spot there is Gaul. Today is France, Switzerland, and Belgium and stuff. All right, let's get out of that. So that's the fourth kingdom. Let me get the proof. We're going to go in this book called The Banner of Israel. Shout out to Deacon Nathan. Got the books. This is the Banner of Israel. I'm going to show you that the Gaul was our tribes. Was our people. Banner of Israel. That's the name of the book. Let's go inside the book. All right. Let's zoom in. Your multitasking is not easy, Israel. So, a little bit of history. This is History in AM. All right. I'm going to read down here to this highlighted area. We're going to get straight to the point. This is, let's read that the Gallic race contains some of a scattered Israel, quote unquote, scattered Israel, is proved by St. Paul's epistle to the Galatians. Wait a minute. We're connecting dots here. Gallic, Galatians, okay. Who it can be seen are Israelites. And we know from history that these Galatians had been in the west of Europe. We just seen it on the map of Gaul and France and Switzerland and what's the other spot? Gaul, Switzerland. I forget the other one. It says the Galatians has been in the west of Europe under the name of Gauls. There you go. So the Israelites were under the name of Gauls. Okay, let's read on. Or perhaps Ombri, which after all is one and the same thing. Boom. So we know now the Gauls, the Galatians, who called themselves Gauls, were Israelites. This is why we have the book of Galatians. This is why Paul traveled to Galatia. He traveled to these areas because we had Israelites scattered there. So I'm showing you the beginning of Rome, the Roman Republic conquering. We read in Daniel chapter 2 and 4. We read it in Daniel 7, I believe, about the fourth beast. Then 2nd Ezra 12. So this is Rome conquering. So it started with Pompey, then Julius Caesar conquering the Gauls, which are the Israelites in that area, which region of France and Switzerland. So this is the fourth beast. Let's go back. Daniel chapter 2 and verse 40. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron break it in pieces, and subdue it all things, and as iron that breaketh all things shall it break in pieces and bruise. So this is some history for you. So we could decipher now. Let me get First Maccabees. First Maccabees 8. I'm gonna prove it biblically now. We're going to start at verse 1. The book of First Maccabees, chapter 8 and verse 1. Now Judas had heard of the fame of the Romans, that they were mighty and valiant men, and such as would lovingly accept all that joined themselves unto them, and make a league of enmity amity with all that came unto them. Amity means friendly relation. So Judas was studying the Romans, and he was literally watching how they was rising. This was the Roman Republic. So remember, the original Romans was Japhet, of course, but around this time they was already engulfed. Esau already took over Japhet land and called themselves the Romans, called themselves the Greeks, called themselves the original inhabitants of those lands, which was Japhet. They removed them and put themselves in place. That's what Esau do. They are culture vultures. They don't have no culture. They have Caucasus Mountain history. That's what they from the dirt, the caves of the cliff of the rocks. That's where they from. That's their origin, okay? But here we're reading that they are conquering, they're ruling, taking over certain provinces like they always do. Like you read, sidebar real quick. Let's go to Psalms 49. They always did this. Psalms 49 verse 11. Their inward thoughts is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own names. That's the point. So when they conquer lands, they call it after themselves. So, okay, let's go back to 1 Maccabees 8 and verse 1. Now Judas had heard of the fame of the Romans, that they were mighty and valiant men, and such as would lovingly accept all that joined themselves unto them, and make a league of amity with all that came unto them. Verse 2, and that they were men of great valor. It was told him also of their wars and noble acts, which they had done among the Galatians. So here in verse 2, we read in Galatians, this was Northern Kingdom. So when we went back to the book, the Banner of Israel, and you read about the author that's telling us about the Gauls and the Gallic wars that Julius Caesar fought, these were Northern Kingdom. He was conquering Northern Kingdom. It was majority Northern Kingdom over there in that land. They had a little Esau in there too, but it was majority Gauls was Israelites. They called themselves that. That's what the author's saying. So now we know in verse 2 in 1 Maccabees 8, when he conquered the Galatians, Judas was studying them. He realized they was conquering because by the time Northern Kingdom was already throughout, scattered. You know, this is why Paul wrote the book of the Galatians, because this was he was going to Northern Kingdom that was scattered there. I'm read verse 2 again. 1 Maccabees 8 and 2. And that they were men of great valor, the Romans were, Esau, Idumean, which under Julius Caesar, Pompey, and all these various different Roman generals, because it was not just one, you had a lot of them, Roman Italian generals, where they was going around conquering, because this is the this is the Roman Republic rising, okay, under the dictatorship of Julius Caesar. And that they, verse 2, and that they were men of great valor, it was told him also of their wars and noble acts. Judas found this out. They was very warlike and they was conquering. So he was studying to see maybe I can make a league of amity or friendly relations with them, which they had done among the Galatians, Northern Kingdom, and how they had conquered them and brought them under tribute. Did we not just read that in the Wikipedia? That's history. Wikipedia said they ultimately conquered them in 52 BC. Okay. Let's jump down to verse. I'm going to jump down to verse 11. Verse 11. It was told him besides, told Judas concerning the Romans, how they destroyed and brought under their dominion all other kingdom and isles that at any time resisted them. So Judas learned that wherever Rome, these Roman generals was going to conquer, they brought all of them under tribute. And you read later on in time, they got to the Greeks. They took down Greeks, Antiochus Epiphanes III, which was Antiochus the Great King III, which was Antiochus Epiphanes' father. They conquered him, which is the Greeks. That's spurred further. They expanded their republic and the Roman rulership, and also they conquered Hannibal in the Punic Wars when they conquered Spain around 202 BC. That was way before, but point is they just was conquering. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back to Daniel's 2. Okay. Daniel's chapter 2 in verse 40. So this is the fourth kingdom is Rome coming into power. And we're reading Rome in the Bible. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron break it in pieces and subdue all things. We just read in 1 Maccabees 8:11. All that came against them, the islands, all kingdoms, they brought them under tribute. They conquered because it was their time. For as much as iron break it in pieces and subdue it all things, and as iron that break it, all these shall it break in pieces and bruise. So that's what happened. So Julius Caesar won the Gallic War and took down a lot of these tribes of dark. So basically Rome taking down dark nations. Verse 41, and whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest that the iron mixed with miry clay. So the feet of the toes is your European Union, and of the potter's clay and part of iron, meaning the strength, and the kingdom shall be divided. Divided meaning, although they will have a strong army, although they'll be conquered, but they'll be weak. That's being divided. But there shall be it in it of the strength of the iron, meaning a military power will be strong and vast. They'll be strong. For as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay, meaning miry clay mix, is other nations in the mix of that. That's what makes them weak, and that's what makes them divided, because there's a lot of other nations, even within their army. Although they have a vast and strong army, they have other nations within that army. Okay, verse 42. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken, meaning weak. It will be strong through military, but weak because it's mixed with all nations, like America today, the great melting pot. Okay, verse 43. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another. That's how you know, because they all believe in different ideology. Even as iron is not mixed with clay. So this is Daniel explaining the dream to Nebuchadnezzar. And there's a point I want out of this. But let's get Habakkuk concerning that. Let's get Habakkuk 2. Habakkuk 2, and where is Habakkuk? Habakkuk 2, I'm going to go with verse 8. The book of Habakkuk, chapter 2 and verse 8. Because thou hast spoiled many nations, there you go, Rome, America, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee, because of men's blood, and for the violence of the land. And the violence of the land, you've been conquering, taking other people's lands. You're going to pay for that. You saw an escaping judgment. Here's the point of the city and of all that dwell therein. So because it's started from that, because thou hast spoiled many nations, going back to Daniel's 2:43. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. That's spoiling many nations. Now they mixing. Now they allow all nations come to America. All nations come on here. Come on to the great American dream. Okay, verse 44. And in those days, and in the days of these kingdoms shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, meaning other nations, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Now that's what we pray for. Now that's therapy. This is the Lord coming down and establishing the sons of God, and this is what we're doing today. We're establishing that kingdom that God is trying to rise up. Okay, you read that in Revelations 2. You read that also in Psalms. So that kingdom of God, the God of heaven is setting up, is the Israelites. That's what we're doing now when we teach on Clubhouse, Daily Bread, History in the AM, 4 chapters a day, 15 minutes with the captains, hitting the streets, traveling abroad throughout the 4 corners of the earth, reaching the our forefathers. Even as when bishop and deacons go to Papua New Guinea and Solomon Island. This is what the King God is establishing this kingdom on earth right now. We are rising up, and the devil is scared. That's why you see all these apologetics coming with all kind of and these pastors, they come in with all kind of tactics to debunk the Israelites, but they gonna fail. They will fail. Okay, reading right along, verse 45, Daniel 2:45. For as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it brake in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God had made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter. And the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof is sure. Better put some respect on it. It is guaranteed. Once the prophecy is being unveiled, the Bible is being unhidden, unsealed, and we declaring the end of the days. This is the end. Okay, now we're going to go to Daniel chapter 3. So remember, that stone, don't forget about that stone. Matter of fact, that stone represents Christ. I'm going to prove it. Here's Ephesians. Let's get Ephesians real quick. Ephesians chapter 5. Is it 5 or 2? Ephesians 2. Ephesians 2 and verse 20. And are built upon the foundation of the apostles and prophets, Jesus Christ himself being the chief cornerstone. So the dream Nebuchadnezzar saw that Daniel was interpreting for him or declaring the meaning of the dream, he told him that stone, Nebuchadnezzar saw Christ. Nebuchadnezzar saw Christ because that stone was Christ who came and destroyed that great image of that gold. And then we're going to show it. I'm going to show some images. All right, so let's go back. Let's go back to Daniel chapter 3. Now we got the point. I just wanted to show that history in Daniel 2. Now let's go to Daniel chapter 3, verse 1. Nebuchadnezzar the king made an image of gold, whose height was 3 score cubits, and the breadth thereof 6 cubits. He set it up in the plain of Dura in the provinces of Babylon. So this is during the time of the Babylonian captivity, and Nebuchadnezzar set up an image of gold. Let's get that. Let's get some imagery. Here you go. Image of gold. This is what Nebuchadnezzar set up. Okay, this is what he had the men build to worship. Verse 2, Daniel chapter 3 and verse 2. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king sent to gather together the princes, the governors, and the captains, the judges, and the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces to come to the dedication of the image which Nebuchadnezzar the king set up. So he decided he wanted all his rulers, his counselors, his kings, it says judges, captains, treasurers, sheriffs, to come before this image and worship this image. That's what he wanted. So this is why he created this vast, great image, okay? This is what he created. And then you see the people, they all came to worship this image. Okay, where we at now we in verse 3. Then the princes, the governors, the captains, the judges, the treasurers, and the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces were gathered together unto the dedication of the image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. And they stood before the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. See, they standing before the image. They stood before the image to worship this vast image of Nebuchadnezzar. This is idolatry. Understand that. Okay, verse 4. Then Herod cried aloud, to you it is commanded, O people, nations, and languages, that at what time you hear the sound of the cornet, the flute, the harp, the sackbut, psaltery, dulcimer, and all kinds of music, ye shall fall down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king has set up. So they made a decree. Once you hear this music, or once you hear this sound they play, everybody is supposed to stop what they're doing and worship. You know, kind of in Mecca or over there, when they sound off that, when the dome sound off the blowing the horn, everybody stop and face the sun and start praying. This was during the time of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar set up. And today, guess what that's like today? Guess what who knows what that remind him of? Let me see if I can look it up. Let me see. Let me see. Let me see what's going. Well, I don't want to film. You know what that's like? Let me get some imagery. Let me get some imagery. This is what that like right there. This is identical to what we have today. What do you see there? What do you see this is doing? This is just a random look up I looked up, but this is the same thing. Judith Hill sings the national anthem at the Arrowhead Stadium in 2022. This is what we're reading. This is the national anthem today. That's similar to that. So when you hear that sound, you know, oh, say everybody stop, face the flag, hands to the heart. There's no different. Remember Whitney Houston? Whitney Houston, all people was all in there. Remember Whitney? She sung in the halftime show the national anthem. So it's the same thing. Here we are in America years, decades later from Babylon. We in current Babylon, and we're still worshiping the image. Can you believe that? So let's go back to the image. So it's no different. Here we go. Hands up. Let's read that again. Daniel chapter 3 and verse 5. That at what time you hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, dulcimer, and all kinds of music, ye fall down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. This is your today national anthem. You know how you in a classroom in school, the teacher, the sound, the announcements sound off. Everybody got to stand up, put their hand across their chest, and respect and look towards the flag. Ain't no different. That's what we're reading right here. Okay, verse 6. And whoso falleth not down and worship shall the same hour be cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. So whoever would not worship, that's what now today they blackball you, they excommunicate you, because I know the football player, what's his name? I forgot his name. He played for San Francisco. Who can type that name? What's his name? He had an afro. He didn't want to take the knee. I mean, he took a knee during the national anthem. Forgot his name, but they railroaded him. He lost his football contract. He lost his he couldn't get a job. He couldn't get signed by another football team. I forgot his name. Can't believe I can't get it. But during the time of Babylon, if you didn't worship the image, you'll be cast in the fiery furnace. Yep. My man James Ben Israel, Colin Kaepernick, that's his name. Yep, that's him. Colin Kaepernick. He was the one that stood against it because he knew it was idolatry. He just knew America was full of crap because he was standing and trying to, do a political statement towards the atrocities that was taken to blacks. So he took a knee during the national anthem. And guess what they did to him? He till this day, he didn't get his job back. And I forgot when it happened, but it was way back, years ago. But same thing we're reading here. So Nebuchadnezzar set up the same law. If you did not worship this image that he set up, you will be cast in the fire, what it says, in the burning fiery furnace. Okay? So this is the image, as you see here. This is what, once you hear that sound, you would just fall down and worship. Okay, verse 7. Therefore, at that time, when all the people heard the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and all kinds of music, all the people, the nations, and the languages fell down and worshiped the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Just like today, national anthem. Everybody, if you got kids in your school, if you got your young kids, your teenagers, whether they're teens or elementary school, whatever, right now, when they go to school in class, they are standing up for the national anthem. Same thing. I'm telling you. And then here's another example. Remember, if you island people, you island from Jamaica, from Haiti, from Santo Domingo, Ecuador, various islands, the Northern Kingdom, and you got Jamaica, Benjamin and Levi. You know, when your parents came over here, they had to get citizenship. Guess what you had to swear allegiance to when you got your citizenship? You had to stand up and put your hand, I think, across your heart and recite whatever they gave you to recite to swear allegiance to Babylon. That's what it is. That's what it is. That's what you got to do. All right. So you islands new. You islands who not citizens, you know about that thing. All right. Verse, what we at? Verse 8. So whoever didn't serve it, you get cast to the fiery furnace. So let's go to verse 8. What am I? Verse 8. Wherefore, at that time, certain of the Chaldeans came near and accused the Jews. They spake and said to the king Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever. Thou, O king, hast made a decree that every man that shall hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music, shall fall down and worship the golden image. And whoso falleth not down and worshipeth it, that he should be cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. So these wicked dudes that despise all people said, listen, king, you put an order out and you said that when this music is played and a lot of music and the flute, the cornet, the psaltery is playing and music being playing, you decreed that all nations, language, nationality should bow down and worship the image, face the image and worship. Then they said, there's some Jews, verse 12. Verse 12, there are certain Jews whom thou hast set over the affairs of the provinces of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not regarded thee. They serve not thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. What we're reading? What we're reading here is what's going to happen to us today. That's why God say, let me get that in 2 Ezra 5. We could feel some of that today. And some of us in our job places, we get reports on us. What is that? 2 Ezra 5:42. And he said unto me, I will liken my judgment unto a ring. Like as there is no slackness of the last, even so there is no swiftness of the first. A ring is a circle. So here we read in the Babylon, ancient Babylon, where heathens in other nations or whoever, or even our people, go report to the government, the dignitaries, giving a fourth of the finger. That's what they did in Babylon. Now here in current Babylon, Babylon the Great, America, they're going to do the same thing to us. You see Trump in office. It's coming close. That's why this history is present for us today. It's relevant. It's relevant even to this day in 2025. Let's read that again. Verse 12, Daniel chapter 3 and verse 12. There are certain Jews whom thou hast set over affairs of the provinces. You know, some of us got good jobs. Some of us working as in hospitals as doctors. Some of us are working as lawyers, judges. Rest assured, you got to take days off for the feast days and high holy days. Esau go notice, man, listen, this manager or this boss, you know, he's always taking these strange days off, you know, and they might give reports. And next thing you know, we without a job. But just know that it's coming. Okay. Set over the affairs of the provinces of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not regarded thee. They serve not thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. Okay. Give me a second. What verse is that? 12. Okay. Yep. Remember, even during the Persian captivity, remember Mordecai, Agag, He fought it. He too did the same thing. Let's get Matthew 10. He too didn't bow down to Amen, who the Agagite. Instead, he didn't regard him because he regarded the God of heaven. But that Edomite didn't like that. Okay, let's get Daniel's. I'm sorry. Well, wait a minute. Daniel, I'm sorry, Matthew 10:16. Matthew 10:16. Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. As we are in this captivity, we got to be wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove. So, like when I referenced an example at your job site, you gotta be very wise. We understand we're in captivity, so there's certain things we can't do or talk about in the workforce, so we won't get put in this predicament like this. Okay, this is what Christ is counseling us. Let me read it again, verse 16. Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. Okay, but beware of men, for they will deliver you up to the councils, and they will scourge you in their synagogues. That's what they'll do. They did that in Babylonian captivity. They did that in Persian captivity. Now here we are in the Roman captivity. Christ is warning us, and today we in American Babylon the Great. Verse 18. And ye shall be brought before governors and kings for my sake, for a testimony against them and the Gentiles. But when they deliver you up, take no thought how or what ye shall speak, for it shall be given you in that same hour what you shall speak. For it is not ye that speak, but the Spirit of your Father which speaketh in you. And the brother shall be deliver up the brother to death, and the father the child, and the children shall rise up against their parents and cause them to be put to death. And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake. But he that endureth to the end shall be saved. Now, that's a heavy couple verses we just read here, a few verses we read here. Christ gave us a good counsel on how we're supposed to move, wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove, and don't be faithless when they deliver you up to the kings, the governments, jail, or even worse, put to death. Don't be faithless. Be prepared. Okay? I'm going to give you an example of that. Get Acts 5. I'm going to give you an example of what we just read in Matthew. Give me a second. We're going to go to the book of Acts chapter 5, and we're going to verse 17. Acts 5:17. Then the high priest rose up, and all they that were with him, which is the sect of the Sadducees. These Sadducees don't even believe in the resurrection. Okay. And were filled with indignation. And they laid their hands on the apostles and put them in the common prison. So you see that they got their disciples and put them in the common prison. This is after Christ. So let you know that what Christ prophesied will happen, will happen. And again, Lord's judgment is like a ring. They would do it to us today. Okay, reading right along. But the angel of the Lord by night, opened the prison doors and brought them forth and said, Go, stand and speak in the temple to the people all the words of this life. So even regardless we get put to death, what is God saying? Still go preach the word. Even if you don't get out of prison, still preach the word. So no matter what the decree is, we got to preach the Bible, the Bible, the Bible. Okay, verse, I'm gonna jump to 24 for time's sake. When we at Acts 5:24. Now when the high priest and the captains of the temple and the chief priests heard these things, they doubted of them whereunto these men this would grow. So in other words, when they put them in prison, they didn't think they was gonna get delivered from the angel. The angel, man, this is called prison break. The angel opened the doors and let the apostles out. This is called prison break. Okay, there's a show called Prison Break. So when he did that, the priest thought they smurged or ceased the teaching of Christ. So they doubted with themselves, say, no, this topic ain't gonna grow. We rectified that. We wrapped it and nipped it in the bud. Let's see, verse 25. Then came one and told them, saying, Behold, the men whom you put in prison are standing in the temple and teaching the people. Then went the captain with the officers and brought them without violence, for they feared the people, lest they should have stoned them. So they say, oh, get the police. Remember, this is all people apprehending the disciples and the prophets. Where we at? So they feared to get them aggressively because they didn't want to get stoned to death. Verse 27, and when they had brought them, they set them before the council, and the high priest asked them, wait, let's go back to Matthew. Let's come. Put your finger there. We coming back there. Let's go back to Matthew because Christ warned us about this. That word council. I thought I read that, didn't I? Let me see. Yep. Matthew 10, verse 17. But beware of men, for they will deliver you up to the council. That prophecy is coming up. It came to pass. Let's go back to Acts 5. Acts 5 in verse 26. Then went the captain with the officers and brought them without violence, for they feared the people, lest they should be stoned. Verse 27. And when they had brought them, they set them before the council, and the high priest asked them, saying, did not we straitly command you that you should not teach in this name? And behold, you have filled Jerusalem with your doctrine, and intend to bring this man's blood upon us. Yeah, we are. And we're doing it today. Christ is black. Christ has not been avenged, and his murder has not been concluded. So including the vast murders that happened amongst our people, like Trayvon Martin, Sandra Bland, Kendrick Johnson. Then you have Rasheem Carter in Mississippi. So we could go all the way back to Christ. That's murder. He was an innocent man. That's the ultimate murder. You know what I'm saying? You gotta pay for your sins. Esau, you got to pay for your sins. Rest assured. Okay, we're going to jump to 38. We still in Matthew chapter 5. We're jumping down to verse 38. Okay, and now I say unto you, refrain from these men. So when you read down to the chapter, Peter spoke up on behalf and said, we have to obey God rather than man. And one of the high priests, Gamaliel, stand up and say, listen, let these men go, because if it be a God, it's going to go to naught. And this is Gamaliel speaking here, verse 38. In verse 38, and now I say unto you, refrain from these men and let them alone. For if this counsel or this work be of men, it will come to naught. But if it be of God, you cannot overthrow it, lest haply you be found even to fight against God. Did we not read that in Daniel 2:44? The God of heaven shall come down and establish a kingdom that would never be broken. It would be established forever. That's what Gamaliel understood. If it be a God, we can't overthrow it. Verse 40. And to him they agreed, and when they had called the apostles and beaten them, wait a minute. Let's go back to Matthew 10, because Christ warned us concerning being beaten. Where is it? Matthew 10 in verse 17 again. But beware of men, for they will deliver you up to the council, and they will scourge you in their synagogues. Let's go back to Acts 5 and verse 40. And to him they agreed, and when they had called the apostles and beaten them, scourged them, they commanded that they should not speak in the name of Jesus, and let him go. They will do that to us today. Stop teaching that Bible. You on Clubhouse, you reading the Bible? Man, stop reading the Bible. Give me your own words. That's on a small scale. But there'll come a time where the government, the dignitaries, the White House, Trump, might pass laws that say, don't read the Bible on the streets. They already banned in Jamaica. I think they banned the Apocrypha, if I'm not mistaken, because they ain't want no insurrection. Britain removed the Apocrypha of the whole Jamaica. So don't think it's far-fetched. God's judgment is like a ring. So we need to prepare ourselves. And guess what we got to do? We got to do what the apostles did. When they got, let's jump back up there. I remember y'all missed it. Acts 5, in verse 19. But the angel of the Lord by night opened the prison doors and brought them forth and said, go, stand and speak in the temple to the people all the words of this life. We still got to teach. That's counsel. Despite the oppositions and the laws against us, we are still to teach this Holy Bible. We got to teach the scriptures. Understand that thing, okay? Let's jump down back to verse 41. And this is the reaction of the disciples and the apostles, right? Acts 5:41. And they departed from the presence of the council, rejoicing that they were counted worthy to suffer shame for his name. That's glory. That's why, let's get that in Romans. That's why Paul said this. Romans chapter 5, I believe is verse 3. Romans chapter 5 and verse 3. And not only so, but we glory in tribulation also, knowing that tribulation worketh patience, and patient experience, and experience hope. And hope maketh not ashamed. We ain't ashamed if we suffer persecution and tribulation for the name of Christ. We glory in that thing. The apostles found it like they found themselves worthy. Let's get some more. Let's go to where we at? Where we at? Give me a second. Where we at? Acts 16. Acts 16. Let's get Acts 16. Paul found it. Paul understood something that we don't understand today. We think it's trial. Oh, why am I going through this? Well, if you're in sin, yeah, I agree. I understand why you complaining. But if you're not in sin, it's of the Lord. Okay, Acts 16, where I'm going, Acts 16:19. Acts 16:19. And when her master saw, and when masters saw that the hope of their gains were gone, they caught Paul and Silas and drew them into the marketplace unto the rulers. There you go. They shall bring you before councils and rulers and governments. Verse 20, and brought them to the magistrates, saying, these men, being Jews, do exceedingly trouble our city, and teach customs which are not lawful for us to receive, neither to observe, being Romans. Don't get it twisted. These are talking about Israelites. They citizens of Rome, like we call ourselves American black, so on and so forth. So they brought them before the magistrates and the rulers, saying, man, these men teaching doctrines that we shouldn't be teaching. Why? Because when you read up, they believe in idolatry. Okay, verse 22. And the multitude rose up together against them, and the magistrates rent off their clothes and commanded to beat them. Here you go. They shall scourge you in their synagogues. That's what they doing. They shall scourge you in their synagogues. Verse 23. And when they had laid many stripes, they whipped them. Back in the 1600s and 1800s, when our ancestors wasn't living in shacks behind master's house, they used to whip us. You watch that in 12 years of slavery. You watch that in Birth of a Nation about Nat Turner getting whipped. That's them stripes. Understand that thing. Okay, the apostles got whipped. And when they had laid their many stripes upon them, they cast them into prison, charging the jailer to keep them safely. Who, when having received such a charge, thrust them into the inner prison and made their feet fast in the stocks. So some of us will be put in prison. And guess they might throw away the key on us. Guess what we got to do? Preach the word. That's what leadership bringing out to us. They're bringing these things out to show us that what we got to prepare for. Okay. So I just wanted to show that point. Now let's go back. Daniel chapter 3. Let's go back to Daniel chapter 3. All that from verse 12, right? Daniel chapter 3 and verse 12. This is what we're reading here in ancient Babylon. There are certain Jews whom thou hast set over the affairs of the provinces of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not regarded thee. They serve not thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar in his rage and fury commanded to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then they brought these men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar spake and said unto them, It is true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Do not ye serve my gods, nor worship the golden image? Let's get the golden image again, in case y'all forget the thought. There you go. No worship the golden image no, which I have set up, verse 15. Now, if ye be ready, that at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kind of music, ye fall down and worship the image which I have made. Well, but if ye worship not, you shall be cast to the same hour into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. And who is that God that shall deliver you out of my hands? So this Nebuchadnezzar talking bold to the three. He said, who going to deliver you out of my hand when I put you in that fiery furnace? Verse 16, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer thee in this matter. This is some heavy. You see the response? We ain't going. We not scared of what we about to tell you, because we fear the living God of heaven, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Peter did the same thing. Let's go back to Acts real quick. Go back to Acts. I didn't read it, but I'm gonna read it now because it made me remember about it. Acts 5 and verse 29, because we read Acts 5 and we stopped at 24 or whatever up there, 24 and 25. Let's go to 29. Then Peter and the other apostles answered and said, we ought to obey God rather than men. The God of our fathers raised up Jesus, whom ye slew and hung on a tree. So he goes to the history. But the point I'm showing you is Peter had the same spirit of our father Daniel. Okay? And as we are to have the same spirit, that bold and courageous spirit, that fearless spirit. But this is the image that Nebuchadnezzar wanted the apostles to worship. You know, this is it. Let's go back to Daniel 3 and verse 16 again. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer thee in this matter. We ain't fearful, Nebuchadnezzar. We gonna explain to you what it be. Verse 17. If it be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thy hand, O king. But if not, be it known unto thee, O king, that we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. So in history, we have many examples of that. Let's go back to Matthew 10. Let's go back to Matthew 10. And this time we're going to read verse 32, because Christ spoke on that thing. Matthew 10, we're going to go to verse 32 this time. Whosoever therefore shall confess me before men, him will I confess also before my Father which is in heaven. Did not Daniel just do this? I'm sorry, not Daniel. Did not Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego just do that before the king? He said, we're gonna worship the God of heaven. He confessed them before dignitaries. Did not Peter do that in Acts 5:29? We just read that. He confessed them before the priests, the scribes, and Pharisees and Sadducees. That's why Christ saying here a counsel for us today. So when we face with such opposition, rest assured we are to confess the God of heaven before men. No matter who it is. No matter who it is, don't get fearful. We have to have that courageous spirit. Okay. Let me read that again. Matthew 10:32. Whosoever therefore shall confess me before men, him will I confess also before my Father which is in heaven. Verse 33. But whosoever shall deny me before men, him will I also deny before my Father which is in heaven. That's good. Job 13. I think Job also gave us that. Job 13, verse 15. Though he slay me, yet will I trust in him, but I will maintain my own ways before him. Letting you know, although you might put us to death, like Nebuchadnezzar is threatening Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they understood that. Let's go back to Daniel. That's what they said. Daniel's chapter 3, verse 17. If it be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thy hand, O king. But if not, be it known unto thee, O king, that we will not serve thy gods. For him saying that, Remember the decree. Whosoever would not worship the image that Nebuchadnezzar have set up, they shall be cast that same hour into fiery burning furnace. So when Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego spoke like this, they understood it meant death, because that's what the decree was. That's what these heathens that reported Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to the king. They understood that. Listen, you said people who don't worship got to be put to death. What's going on, Nebuchadnezzar? Verse 18 again. But if not, be it known unto thee, O king, that we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. So they made their deathbed. And that's confessing the Lord before men. Standing tall on the commandments. Did not Eleazar did that in the time of the Maccabees? Or the old age Eleazar, who was compelled to eat swine's flesh, or even not eat swine flesh, but impersonate or act as if you ate swine flesh, just to defile the minds of the people. It happened in the Greek captivity, happened in Babylon. It's going to happen again in current Babylon, America the Great. Okay. Let's read on. Daniel 3 and verse 19. Then was Nebuchadnezzar full of fury, and the form of his visage was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Therefore he spake and commanded that they should heat the furnace 7 times more than it was wont to be heated. This damn Cushite, I think he was a Cushite, he said burn, or Ethiopian, he said not only turn it hot, turn it 7 times hotter than what we originally would turn it. That means you talk about nuclear burning hot. I don't know how hot that was. I can't even explain it. It's the heat that will melt your skin from the bones. Like you ever watch that movie? Was it Terminator? With that sister, that Edomite was holding the gate. Yes, that kind of heat where it's so hot to the point where it burns you, and let's say you're standing up and the fire just, you ever watch Game of Thrones with the blonde hair Edomite that played Daenerys? Was it Daenerys? I forget her. She had a dragon, and she would say the term Dracarys, and that meant the dragon should cast out fire out of his mouth, and it burned the people while they stand. They turn into ashes. That type of heat. That's some heat there. And then don't get twisted. Them dragons, those are Leviathans and stuff. The Bible call them Leviathans. Okay? So, but our forefathers was not fearful. What we got? Daniel chapter 3. He said, heat up the furnace, right? We had 3 and 20. 3 and 20. And he commanded the most mighty men that were in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and to cast them into the burning fiery furnace. That's verse 21. Then these men were bound in their coats. Let's get that. Hold on, give me a second. Verse 21 again. Then these men were bound in their coats, their hosen, and their hats, and their old garments, and were cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. This is Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. See that royal garment they have? They were cast in the furnace. Verse 22. Therefore, because the king's commandment was urgent, and the furnace exceedingly hot, the flame of the fire slew those men that took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. You know that was of the Lord. He said, "Oh, you want to touch my apostles? Oh, you gonna die." That wasn't no coincidence. Because remember, the Lord is a God of spirits, and He control, and fire is a spirit. He made sure whoever put their hands on my apostles, my prophets, my people, the apple of my eye, guess what? You gonna die. And that's what happened to them. This is them. Got cast in the first. What we at? Before we get, let's get 3 holy children. Let's go to Apocrypha. Let's go to the Apocrypha. We're going to the 3 holy children. And we're going to read verse 23. And the king's servants that put them in ceased not to make the oven hot with rosin, pitch, tow, and small wood. So it's not. This is giving more detail how these mighty men that Nebuchadnezzar ordered to go ahead and turn up the heat on that fiery furnace. So they chose rosin, pitch, tow, and small wood to heat up the furnace. Verse 24. So that the flames streamed forth above the furnace 49 cubits. Look how high that thing came up. That's why I put them to death. Let's go back to Daniel 3. We're going to come back to 3 holy children. Let's go back to Daniel 3:22. I'm sorry, 22. Therefore, because the king's commandment was urgent and the furnace exceeding hot, the flame of the fire slew those men that took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. It put them to death. It put them to death. Okay, verse 23. And these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down into the midst of the fiery furnace. Then Nebuchadnezzar, the king, was astonished, and rose up in his haste, and spake and said unto his counselors, Did not we cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire? They answered and said unto the king, True, O king. So this how you know that's evil. They put him in the fire, and now they looking down there to see what's to come of them. But when he looked in there, he looked and said, wait a minute. Did not we cast down 3 in there? Let's go back to the 3 holy children. We're going back. We're going to keep flipping back and forth. Let's go back to the 3 holy children. This time we're going to read verse 1. 3 holy children, verse 1. And they walked in the midst of the fire, praising God and blessing the Lord. This was Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego was doing. They was in the fire walking. That's what I'm showing you here. When they stand, you see their feet? They standing walking in the fiery furnace. They in there. They are in there walking, standing, unfazed, untouched. Okay? Let's read on. Verse 2. Then Azariah stood up and prayed on this manner, and opened his mouth in the midst of the fire, said, Blessed art thou, O Lord God of our fathers. Thy name is worthy to be praised and glorified forevermore. And that's what the Lord looking for, each and every one of us. We got to praise him. Okay, let's go back to Daniel 3:24. Daniel 3:24. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king was astonished, and rose up in haste, and spake and said unto his counselors, Did not we cast 3 men bound in the midst of the fire? They answered and said unto the king, True, O king. Okay. Then he answered and said, Lo, I see 4 men loose. What he said? We won't see these. They ain't bound no more. He answered and said, Lo, I see 4 men loose walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt. And the form of the 4th is like the Son of God. Wait a minute. How did Nebuchadnezzar know that this was the Son of God? I know y'all forgot. We started off in Daniel 2 for a reason. Let's go back to Daniel chapter 2 in verse 45. I'm going to bring it back to your remembrance. Daniel 2:45. How did Nebuchadnezzar know that was Christ? Daniel 2:45. Remember, Daniel declared the dream to Nebuchadnezzar. For as much as thou sawest the stone, for as much as thou sawest that stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it brake in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God has made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter. And the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. Let's get Ephesians. We coming back. Let's get Ephesians. Ephesians chapter 2. So we can know what a stone is. That stone, he said that stone broke in pieces the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver. These are kingdoms being destroyed. That's what Daniel's interpreting. That's what the dream represents. Kingdoms falling down by Christ destroying them. Ephesians 2:20. And are built upon the foundation of the apostles and prophets, Jesus Christ himself being the chief cornerstone. That's the stone. Nebuchadnezzar seen the Son of God, and he knew there was a Son of God. That's why when you go back to let's go back to Daniel 3. Going back to Daniel 3 and verse, what was that? 25. He answered and said, Lo, I see 4 men loose. They wasn't bound. 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt. And the form of the 4th is like the Son of God. Let's go back to the 3 holy children. We're going back to the 3 holy children. Verse 26. We read in verse 26 now. But the angel of the Lord came down into the oven to gather with Azarias and his fellows, that's Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and smote the flame of the fire out of the oven. That's some goods. That's some power there. So that's why you see the fire surrounding them, and the Son of God protected them. Christ protected. Look at that. Ain't no fire touching us. They clothes are still intact. They afro is still full wool, pure wool like Christ. And Nebuchadnezzar saw that with his own eyes. Okay, let's go back to Daniel 3 and 20. No. Let's read down some more. Let's stay on the 3 holy children. Let's read verse 27. And made the midst of the furnace as it had been a moist whistling wind. Wow, that's power. So that the fire touched them not at all, neither hurt nor troubled them. Then the 3, as out of the one mouth, praise, glorifying, and bless God in the furnace, saying, Blessed art thou, O Lord God, our fathers, of our fathers, and to be praised and exalted above all forever. And blessed is thy glorious and holy name, and to be praised and exalted above all forever. Forever, ever? Forever, ever. Verse 31, Blessed art thou in the temple of thy holy glory, and to be praised and glorified above all forever. You got to imagine, you see some blessing and the protection like that, you got to bless the Most High. Got to bless the Most High on that one there. That's some beautiful stuff there. Okay, let's go back. Let's go. You know what that's like? I'm going to show you what that represents. Let's get Psalms 91. Remember when the bomb's going to hit, right? When the bomb's going to hit, you think fire got power over the Lord? Let's get Psalm 91. This is why he said this. Psalm 91. So I'm going to go to the point. Psalms 91 in verse 7. I'm going to start at verse 6. I'm going to start at verse 5. Psalm 91 in verse 5. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day. This is nuclear bomb during World War III. Don't be scared of them bombs. It says by day. Verse 6, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. This is nuclear bombs. God, Christ is telling us, don't be afraid of it. Verse 7, 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. That fire has no power over us if we endure to the end. That's what Christ is telling us right there, man. That's the fire have no power. And you don't care how hot. And this is nuclear. This is even more hotter than what Nebuchadnezzar set in store. You know? Okay, let's go back. Just go through the pictures with y'all. This is them. Daniel's, 3 holy children again. 3 holy children. Verse 20, I'm going to read verse 26 again. But the angel of the Lord, that's Christ. That angel represents Christ. We just proved that. He's that stone. He's that chief cornerstone. But the angel of the Lord came down into the oven together with Azarias and his fellows and smote the flame of the fire out of the oven. That's what he's going to do during the time of that, when that fire, not Psalm 91, when that noonday hit and that the time come when that bombs, when they Esau start pushing the button. If we, whoever live in that day, Lord's will we in the commandment, the Lord will protect us, Lord's will on that day. Okay, let's go back to Daniel chapter 3. Where we at? I think Daniel chapter 3 and verse 25 again. And we're going to read down. Okay. He answered and said, Lo, I see 4 men loose. That's what we're looking at right there. 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt. And the form of the 4th is like unto the Son of God. Okay. Let me put it back. Let me transition. So this is some good stuff there. Verse 26. Then Nebuchadnezzar came near to the mouth of the burning fire furnace and spake and said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, you servants of the Most High God. Not he confessing the servants of the Most High God. Not that idolatrous image you want us to serve, but now as the servants of the Most High God. He's recognizing now. Servants of the Most High God, come forth and come hither. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came forth of the midst of the fire. And the princes, governors, and captains, and the king's counselors, being gathered together, saw these men upon whose bodies the fire had no power, nor was an hair of their head signet, neither were their coats changed, nor smell of fire had passed on them. Let's go back. This is why you see that pure wool, they ain't smell like no fire. They ain't lose a hair on their head. They still had all their hair encompassed. They had everything. You know, they didn't lose nothing. Okay. Verse 28. Then Nebuchadnezzar spake and said, Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who hath sent his angel and delivered his servants that trusted in him, and have changed the king's word and yielded their bodies, that they might not serve nor worship any God except their own God. Let me go back. To Daniel's. I'm sorry. 3 holy children. 3 holy children. Verse 29 again. Verse 28. Then the 3, as out of one mouth, praise, glorified, and bless God in the furnace, saying, Blessed art thou, O Lord God of our fathers, and to be praised and exalted above all forever. So they try to praise in God. They praise the Lord when they got delivered. Let's go back to Daniel's chapter 3 and verse 28. Nope, verse 29. Verse 29. Therefore, I make a decree that every people, nation, and language which spake anything amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be cut in pieces, and their houses shall be made a dunghill, because there is no other God that can deliver after this sort. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the provinces of Babylon. That's some good history. That's some powerful stuff right there. So understand, our forefathers put the faith in the Lord, and they trusted in the God of heaven, despite the opposition against them, as we should to do today. We should do that as it is for us today. We got to take these examples and use this as to increase our faith in a time of these trying times. Okay. So that's some good stuff there. Courage is necessary, and the Lord don't give us a spirit of fear. Give me that in 1 Timothy. I think is let's get that in 1 Timothy 1:7. It might be second. It might be 2 Timothy 1:7. Let me see. 2 Timothy chapter 1 and verse 7. Yep. For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. We have to be sound. We have to not be so worried, like Isaiah told us. Isaiah 33 and verse 6. And wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times, and strength of salvation. The fear of the Lord is his treasure. So the point is, the wisdom and knowledge, God's commandments, statutes and commandments, this Bible shall be the stability. That'll give us that sound mind. So that way we won't be worried or wavered if opposition come against us. So we got to take these. That's what we got to read. That's what we got to read. Faith is increased through reading. Blessed is he that read. We got to read the Bible, and that's how we increase our faith. So Israel, hope you got some edification on that history, on the book of Daniel chapter 3, Daniel and the fiery furnace. That was the topic. Don't forget, Israel. Oh, let me turn my wait. There you go. Don't forget, Israel, to donate. This is how we get the prophets and leadership travel to the four corners of the earth. This is how we get them to go to these various islands. That we know we got Passover coming up. We got feast days coming up next week. We got Nicanor. We got Purim. And also we got the Passover. So Lord's will, you guys could take opportunity to donate, partake in this truth, to spread the gospel, so that way we can go to these areas and teach and build up these various congregations in these islands in Africa. So this is what we need it for. So those barcodes are not there. If y'all see this, it's not there for no reason. It's there for you to scan and donate. All praise to the Most High. That's the topic. That's my class. Israel, shalom, Most High, Christ bless.